Last weekend saw the conclusion of Valorant Champions Paris, the culmination of the VCT for 2025, and a celebration of the first 5 years in the history of our game. NRG took the trophy home, making their IGL Ethan the first player to ever win the event twice, but before the grand finals, Riot unveiled their next upcoming agent to the roster, Agent 29, Veto. Veto is a Sentinel by role, joining Sage, Cypher, Killjoy, Chamber, Deadlock, and most recently Vyse, who was announced at last year's Champs event in Seoul. Here is Veto's unlockable agent gear, including titles, sprays, and a gun buddy. He is the 6th agent to be added to the game with an unlockable Sheriff, and his is called the Enforcer Sheriff. He is a slightly more traditional take on the role in the sense that the majority of his abilities are placeable and remain idle until interacted with, unlike Sage. However, he has tools with very offensive capabilities. So let's hop in game and see what he's all about. Now, as you can see, we're in game with Veto, so I'll be taking you through what his abilities are, how much they cost, and how to use them in game. So starting off on the left hand side, you can see we have Crosscut. This costs 200 credits, and effectively what it is a TP, a glorified Omen TP. The range, as you'll see here on the ground by the highlighted anchor that I'm moving around, goes pretty far, and when you look at it here, the range as well is fairly extended. You can go through walls, you can go on top of objects, and in terms of how quickly it takes to activate and equip my gun here, it's pretty forgiving. So a strong starter ability for 200 credits. I believe it is slightly more expensive than an Omen TP. So you can activate it while moving, and as long as you can see the anchor, you're looking at it, pretty much like activating any other placeable utility. You can be moving, jumping, you're still able to get the TP off. So a very strong start. Next ability that we have in Veto's kit is Chokehold. The best way to describe this is a combination between an alarm bot and a fade seize. So you're able to equip it, throw it on the ground, and then when an enemy moves nearby, it will trigger itself. And I'll give a better explanation or a demonstration of how that looks in-game in just a bit. But in terms of here, sat by myself in the skirmish lobby, you can see you just go ahead and throw it both underhand, overhand, doesn't matter, and it will disguise itself. So an enemy has to walk close to it to be able to see it. It does equip both the Deafen and the Decay status effects, though, exactly the same way that a Fade Seize would work. The way that Valorant's game engine works means that a lot of agents' throwable utility is exactly the same in terms of its physics, which means that for Veto and the Chokehold, it's going to throw the exact same way that a Killjoy Nanoswarm does, which means if you already have Nanoswarm lineups, you're going to be able to copy them. And it's a simple cut and paste, the same way that Phoenix's Hot Hands or Waylay's Saturate will both land in the exact same place if you have a lineup already, which means that it's kind of easy to just throw him into the Sentinel bracket when there's already a Sentinel that has utility which works in a similar way. The next ability for Veto is his signature known as Interceptor, which costs 100 credits, but because it's a signature ability, it means that it's regenerative utility. So after having activated it, it will be available for him on a 45-second cooldown again, and if you go ahead and place it in the world, once you retrieve it, if you're not happy with the placement, outside of freeze time, it's going to cost you another 30 seconds. So a heavy investment to make, but a very strong piece of utility, because you can place it pretty much anywhere within reason. Quite high up in the air too, which means that if you're on the enemy team and you're trying to clear out of a choke point and not looking for it, it can be pretty dangerous to deal with. But what exactly is it that it does? Well, essentially it's a trophy system. It deletes any utility which comes within range when it is activated, which you do by simply pressing the same button as you would to equip it in the first place. It lasts for 9 seconds, I believe, and makes quite a loud audio cue. So the enemy team should definitely be aware once it is active. And in terms of the range to actually go ahead and activate it, also pretty big. So big, in fact, I think it doesn't really matter how far away you are. So if I go ahead and place one in the corner of the room over here, and I run all the way to the other side, can't even see it through the wall, there you go. And you can see on the map what the area of effect looks like. It's pretty big. So On some maps, able to hold more than one choke point at the same time. I can imagine Veto being good on a map like Bind, for example, where you do have a lot of tight choke points, where you're able to throw down your chokehold as well to get value on teams which have to push through tight areas. And if your Interceptor can then catch both lanes at the same time, I'm thinking B site, for example, is probably going to be pretty strong, especially if you put it above hookah. Yeah, looking pretty good. The final part to Veto, which has got everybody talking, is his ultimate. With it coming in at costing only 7 charges, it's one of the cheaper ones in the game, and it's called Evolution. What it does is it gives you combat stim, you regenerate when you're out of a gunfight, and you become immune to all sorts of debuffs. It instantly casts, and in the top corner you can see that my player icon has changed when I have it equipped. The combat stim is pretty damn fast, especially if you're using a Phantom or another similar gun. But I'm now going to go find myself a test dummy, hop into a few different maps which we're going to be seeing in the competitive pool, and see how exactly he interacts with all of them and plays out. We're going to go through the abilities one by one, so as an enemy player you get an idea of what it is everything looks like. So starting off with the TP, if you place that one down on the ground, you can see it, right? From any distance, it's not range limited, and it only takes 1 bullet, 1 instance of damage to break it. So called the Chokehold, so the Seize ability, that one is disguised. So when it gets placed on the ground, when it's active, you're going to see it get placed initially, but then it disappears. And if you shift walk away from it, this is 8 meters. It's within sort of 7 meters then that it will latch onto you, and it does 75 decay damage. Then the Interceptor, which is the utility deleter, the trophy system. I believe you can see this from any range, so it doesn't matter how far away you are, you're always going to be able to see this, which at least adds some kind of counter to otherwise a piece of util, which is going to break everything when it's activated. So as you can see, when it's active, it's just going to destroy any throwables, anything I place within a 20-meter range. One other interesting thing to mention is that if I put down my Interceptor and the other Veto puts down theirs, it's essentially whoever goes first, but even if we did it at the same time, so 3, 2, 1, now, one is going to beat the other. Let's take a look at some more of the agent interactions. So as you can see here, we have Veto in his ult, and I'm wondering how exactly KO is going to work. So obviously any projectiles that would usually do damage don't do any damage while Veto is in this evolved form. But if we suppress Veto, then yeah, it doesn't do anything because you don't get the debuff from the suppress. So that's the first myth. the first myth busted, and no flashes either. Very interesting. When Veto's in his ult, he's not going to be taking any debuffs or any damage from most abilities and ultimates. So that, of course, includes Grimol, Ollie, Breach ult, Fade ult, anything that can cause him a problem. As you can see, he makes a ticking sound, but no harm done. There are, however, some ways to kill him, and that includes abilities which are not considered projectiles, but weapons instead. For example, Chamber's Headhunter. You can... Do you have invulnerability on?
Wait, I might.
For example, Chamber's Headhunter, if you shoot the Veto while in ultimate, it's still going to be able to kill him. Same with Chamber's own ultimate.
Not another step.
Will also be able to kill the Veto because it counts as a gun. It doesn't count as a ability, I suppose. And there are a couple other examples of this. Of course, Jet Knives works the exact same way, so I'm able to get the Veto even when he's in his ultimate. I can still kill him, right? There's no problems with that. Final example of this is, of course, Neon Ult as well. Works the exact same way.
You
can
had it
still kill the Veto when he is in his ultimate ability if you have the Neon Overdrive equipped. Example of how the ultimate can be used on your attack rounds, for example, would be when you're taking a site. Because you're not affected by any ultimates, that not only includes your opponents but your teammates as well. So if I hit the evolution here, I can already be making my way out onto site, and if our breach ults, I'm right in the middle of it, ready to capitalize. Now the timings obviously work kind of interestingly and a little bit different from map to map, so you'll have to try and find which work best for you. I think probably another good example would be Teho's ult, because it is similarly progressive, but it blocks off the line of sight much better than the breach ult does, for example. The way that Veto's really useful on attack side is dealing with other Sentinels as a counter to them. As you can see here, my Vyse has both Thorns, the Flash, and the Wall, and swapping onto the attack side. Now that we've swapped teams, we'll go ahead and look and see how much of it I can actually break. Obviously, the Vyse Wall's here. I'm not expecting this to be destructible, but if I go and place my Interceptor in and activate it, it deleted the first Thorn. It didn't delete the second, and it didn't delete the Flash either, or the Wall. So Vyse is a little bit stronger, I guess. So up against the full setup with both of the Thorns and the Flash, even if you put it right in the middle of both of them... Oh, actually, okay, it can break a couple at a time, but it really has to be within range. Okay, that's really temperamental. It took half a second for it to break the next one, but... yeah, it's a decent counter at cleaning up some of that stuff. I imagine that against Cypher it's probably most effective, but I can see Vyse being one of the stronger ones if you have a Veto executing into. Another question that I had coming in was, is Veto going to be able to break the Yoru clone? Will you be able to tell the difference between a real Yoru and a fake Yoru using the Interceptor? So, if I put it in play and I activate it, the fake out comes in, and it has absolutely no idea. Not a Scooby. So Yoru is also fairly effective against this agent. And I'm expecting that also means Yoru fake out will activate the chokehold the same way that a normal player usually would. So Yoru just gets stronger and stronger in 2025. What can I say? He's the kind of agent you would probably want to face up against. One of the interactions that I found to be the most interesting and showing how strong Veto can be in the right hands is one with Deadlock. So if Veto has an Interceptor active within range to a Deadlock cocoon from her Annihilation, which captures him, he gets broken out, and then he absolutely screws you, just like Sally from Cars when she went through the muddy puddle in front of Lightning McQueen. So that's the best way to describe it. For Astra Stars, if they are not activated, then the Interceptor, even if it is active, I don't believe should be able to break them if Veto sends it up. And yeah, it won't. But if you go to Smoke... Oh, with a recall, that works. What about a normal smoke? No? Can't break it. Okay. If we get a new Interceptor up here and activate it, a stun, not affected, and I imagine that a gravity well is also not affected. So Astra is one of the few agents that isn't going to suffer massively if Veto's on the other side. Those were all of the interactions that I was interested in seeing, but let me know in the comments if there's anything you want me to explore. I'm going to be streaming as much Veto gameplay as possible over the next few days since this video has been released, as I have early access thanks to Riot. So appreciate them for hooking me up with this. In terms of how I feel about the agent and where he's going to slot into the meta, at least in terms of ranked games, the same way that Clove coming in gave a more aggressive outlet for players who have maybe been forced to play smokes with their teammates, I can definitely see Veto being picked up by people who want to have a slightly more aggressive Sentinel for their ranked games. In terms of pro play, it's going to take a while to see where he fits in. We have such an open meta at the moment. I'm hoping that this isn't an overcorrection of the surplus of utility that we saw, especially coming through agents like Teho at the start of the year. But just even looking at like the TPs, the fact you can put 2 down, very quickly move from place to place, and make it difficult for people to punish you, having your own utility to try and play off, and obviously in the ultimate being invulnerable to lots going on, and actually taking that role up of being a space creator on the attack side is really interesting, and some nuance that we've not really seen brought to the Sentinel role before. Do I think he's broken? That's yet to be found out, but I would go so far as to say early on, he's not broken, but could maybe do with a couple of changes, especially when you look at the buy menu and the fact that some of the abilities are very, very cheap at the moment. Those have been my initial thoughts on Veto, though. If you have enjoyed this look behind the scenes, leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on. I'm going to be making plenty more content in the off-season, so stay tuned, and I'll see you all then. But for now, bye-bye.